out here. It's looks like it's going to be wet and windy conditions across the state today, but that's what footy's all about. I'm Matthew Fodia. Joining me today for the pre-game is Wayne Brasher and Ryan Long. Gents, what are you excited to be out here, rugged up, ready to go on a cold May afternoon?
Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, listeners. Yes, always a trip up to Heights Reserve is always reserved with a jacket and scarf and that, but nonetheless, every time you come up here, it's a ripping game of football, and I'm thinking we're going to get another one again this afternoon.
Yeah, we've picked another rip up.
Yeah,
Ryan Long, you said you don't often come up this way, mate. Would you consider this up the mountain?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've been past Kilsyth, besides when we went to Coldstream. But yeah, no, I didn't pack didn't pack heavy. I've got the jacket on, but I'm going to be on the boundary today, so a bit chilly. Hoping the rain will hold off as much as it can, but it seems to be on and off today. But I think more importantly, we've got a really good game between two sides who are pretty much at the top of the division and playing incredible footy. So I think we're going to get a close one today.
Yeah, the other thing is too, he's getting an education.
I was about to say, Brash,
in suburbs,
yeah,
mate.
That's right.
He's going to learn plenty about the eastern suburbs, and if he's talking smack, you don't want to talk smack about this area, mate. They don't take kindly to that.
No, they don't.
He's also going to get Ray Baird. He's back on the broadcasting.
Ryan's
going to be riding shotgun with him and just learning the tricks of the trade down on the boundary. And I'm sure Ray...
You'll be teaching Ray.
I'm sure Ray will be ready to teach him all about how to handle the wet weather. Ray's an expert at it.
He is.
But we look forward to that later on. We're going to jump into it. Press for time. Of course, last week we had an hour and 45 minutes. But this week we are starting on normal time, normal proceedings.
And we got 54 minutes
exactly.
This week.
So we better start flying through it. Let's start in the Premier Division, and it's the most even Premier Division in years, Brash. You've obviously been around the media team for almost a decade, right? I'm sure you've been observing as a keen follower of Eastern football. No sides undefeated. Vermont probably were the closest, given they lost their only game by 2 points. But what's your read on that, Brash? There's almost 9 sides looking for finals. You'd probably say only North Ringwood and Doncaster can't consider themselves a chance.
Yeah, and it's a very... Actually, when I looked at the ladder to see Vermont on top again, I'm thinking, gee, who have they beaten actually to be on top at the moment? I mean, because, look at the season itself. It's been a up and down ride for nearly all the sides. South Croydon looked good against Blackburn. They drop a game. Norwood come off a bye thinking that, after leading for a quarter and a half, and they get beaten by Noble Park. You've got Berwick with 2 wins in a row, one against Baldwin. It's great. I love seeing close football, and the fact that each game every week could throw up a 50-50 probability who's going to win. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah, Ryan, in recent years, BWS and I were talking about it during the week on the podcast, that in recent years gone by, you could easily probably tip Vermont each week unless they were playing someone like a Baldwin. And then in recent times, South Croydon and Blackburn were the other 2 teams that were dominant. But now this year, Noble Park have come back to the fore as well. Rowville have been around the mark for a few years. And the new sides in Doncaster, East and Berwick are providing some fight too. So it's very interesting.
It makes coming here tipping each week is almost impossible. And we said about Baldwin last week, we said, could they be in trouble? There could be 3 in a row losses, come out and they win comfortably, and now they're back inside the pack from that 1st to 7th position. Only 1 game splitting them, everyone up, 3 wins and 2 wins. And then you look at Doncaster East and Rowville. At their best, they can challenge anyone inside that top 7. I don't think there's anyone that they couldn't beat on their best day.
And Berwick as well, Brash, who 2 wins in a row, a convincing one at that against North Ringwood, who beat Doncaster East. So it's all interesting. Doncaster the only side without a win,
and then throw in the 2 byes, because in
it seems to be. So it was interesting in the office this week. There was a couple of presidents and stuff came in, and they said how their coaches were just trying to get to the bye because they've had a lot of soft tissue injuries. So initially everyone was like, "Oh, we don't want the bye," but now with the year off footy, the bye's actually become a blessing in disguise because for example, Doncaster East brought back Sam Rowe this week. I think Berwick have got 3 or 4 blokes that are keen to put their feet up for a week, so it's become a blessing.
Well, put it this way, I can't actually remember when the 2 Appleby boys aren't playing for Doncaster East in any given week. They've James obviously pinged that hamstring in the game against Doncaster.
James or Tom? It was one of them.
Yeah, I think it was Tom. I think. Yeah. But I think the other one's out injured too. So, I mean, I think the other thing too, Matt, when you're just talking about injuries, it's not only local football, but it's also become a talking point in the with the big boys this week.
Yeah, well, injuries and availability is going to be key this year on with the evenness, and not only injuries but also VFL availability, because almost all sides in Premier Division will have a handful of players on VFL lists, and even in today's game, there's 4 or 5 players from Mooroolbark alone that have been released by their VFL clubs to play local footy, and that's having an impact. For example, Norwood Park, from all reports last week, they had Goy Locke, the Sandringham vice captain. They had another couple of players, Mitch O'Riordan, or I can't pronounce the name correctly, obviously, but so they actually were strengthened from a side that's middle of the range to top 4-ish. So VFL availability and injuries are going to play such a big impact.
Yes, looking at the stability of sides, I always think when a side changes with VFL players or injuries, it always is a little bit different from week to week. You're not getting a consistent structure lineup between your players. Players move around from positions. You might be having to move others into the midfield who haven't had that much run in there. So it's not always a bad thing.
Yep.
I mean, you look at Roeville. It makes it struggle for them when they do.
Well, they're probably hurt the most by VFL, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I think, and they've got a lot of guys at Frankston, which is a standalone club, which means that they're not going to be affected by AFL availability. Whereas your Box Hill boys, if Hawthorn have got a full list, you're probably not going to play many games. No. So that is an interesting point. But Norwood Park, speaking of them, they're probably I'd say they're the biggest story, Brash, in Premier Division, because the other sides that are 3-1, your Vermont, we expect that. South Croydon have been around the mark for a couple of years. Obviously, Baldwin, I know they're 2-2, but everyone knows what they're like. Same with Blackburn. Norwood are sort of, they've fallen back to the pack after the last week. But Norwood Park, I don't think anyone thought they'd be contending for finals, let alone be 3-1. And their wins have come against South Croydon at home, but they beat Norwood and Berwick away. So they're going pretty well, Brash. And Kyle Martin didn't play last week.
No, and I noticed he's back in the side in this week, which is always a welcome acquisition. Always to have your captain back. I think the important thing for Norwood Park, obviously, with Steve Hughes saying defence first, obviously. 2 of those wins have basically come from the fact that...
they've just been in games.
Yeah, and the fact that they strangled the life out of South Croydon in that game last week, or the week before, to an extent that South Croydon had really no meaningful inside 50 input for most of the afternoon.
And then in Norwood game last week, Ryan, they were half-time. Norwood probably the better of the 2 sides, it would seem on paper, but Norwood Park just, as Brash is saying, they probably just strangle you so much and then they hit you in the last quarter.
Well, they came from behind. I think they were 4 goals down at quarter time.
Yeah,
and they really, that second half just pushed them to the brink. And, I mean, you look at that, no Kyle Martin, he returns this week. They haven't conceded more than 58 points a game, which is, I think, the second number 2 defence behind Vermont. So it's a really strong outfit that I think, from watching them the first time against Berwick, I don't think we would have thought they would have been this high up at the moment.
However, one thing I do say this, I mean, as much as I like the fact that defence is important, you've also got to marry that a little bit, Matt, with you've got to have some sort of attacking.
They've actually got the most marks inside 50.
I know, but that week... they had one game against Vermont. They had 20 marks of inside 50 for 2 goals won. And even the coach said on that day, that's to have so many inside 50s and not even capitalise on a tenth of them. He goes, that's a bit of a concern, which I need to work on throughout the season with the squad.
Their ball use is going to be interesting because he said they had 20 inside 50s in the last quarter against Vermont.
Yeah,
and couldn't put a score on the board at all. So that's interesting. But it's good to see them back.
Yeah, I'm happy
back
to see
in the
them
mix because Norwood Park, they had a few years 7th to 8th, and it was probably hard for them with Mick Fogarty because it's a hard. You could even say the same about Hawthorn with Alistair Clarkson. Now, it's hard to move on a legacy coach, isn't it? But, it's all fair now. Mick's gone down to Beaconsfield and enjoying a good time there. They've started like a house on fire, and Steve Hughes is able to take, a fresh group and a fresh direction, and the Bulls, they won't be down for long.
Well, the thing is, we say this every week, Matt. When we look at the coaching changes, yes, we turn around and say the coaches stick with as long as the coach is having success and keeping the club on an even keel, he's got a job there. But as soon as things start to go a little bit pear-shaped, then all of a sudden the executives of the club look to think, well, do we need to reinvigorate the club again by bringing?
It's just hard when Mick, because of the success Mick had. It was hard for them to make a decision.
It was always the case. Like Dan Donati was in the same. But I'm sure he'd probably be still coaching
if he wanted to.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. But unfortunately, the coaches don't often get the time for them to retire.
Exactly, but I think Mick did that. And it was a good one. And Mick's a great man for all that have met him. So just a couple other highlights that's going around the round. North Ringwood got another young debutant, Mason Halloran. I believe that's the correct pronunciation. I apologise if it isn't. North Ringwood debut, another under-17 player. So obviously a few injuries down at North Ringwood, and Robbie Nahas is getting the kids involved. So in the long term, this is probably going to be good. Harry Flynn last week in his second game had 24 touches, kicked a goal. So so he's settled in. So in the long run, it might pay off. They've just got to hopefully, for their case, still be in the Premier Division in 2022.
Like I said, if they can look, they'll probably get their chance.
Yeah, and they're obviously playing good. They're playing well at home. Both their games at home, they've impressed. Jake Whitling from Carceres, 100 senior games today.
Yeah,
what is it? 2 premierships, 3 grand finals, or 4 grand finals.
Yeah.
He's a very, very key player out there on the wing for them. And then finally, the other player, Jessie Newman, 200 games for Norwood today.
Excellent.
Which for local footy, 200 games is a massive effort. And Jessie's still holding down a key role in their defence.
Yeah.
Side that are expected to make top 5 this year.
Yeah, no, look, Jessie's been an absolute legend for Norwood, and he's played, and he's not really played that too many bad games. He's very consistent.
It's a hard thing to do for 200 games in a row. So the round today, we'll just do a quick tip. So probably the games that look like they're one-sided, but as we said this year, there's going to be very rarely one-sided games in Premier Division. North Ringwood take on Blackburn at home. You'd say Blackburn on paper, and Blackburn's game is suited to a bigger ground. So I actually think, because Blackburn have won both games away from home and haven't won at home.
Still no Hammond in the side yet, still out injured.
Key role, but you'll nurse him.
Yeah, look, I think Blackburn are going well enough to win that.
Yeah, I'm with Blackburn as well, and I think the loss of Baldwin last week isn't as bad as what the scoreline reads. I think it was just that second quarter that Baldwin really were on top of them, but other than that, they weren't that far behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also going to tip Blackburn, and I don't know about North. I think every time North Ringwood play, it's going to be a high-scoring game. We've heard from a lot of people that they run in one direction. So if they can get on a roll, they're good, but it could be a high-scoring one out there. Another game that'll be interesting is Carceres hosting Norwood. So on paper, again, you'd suggest Norwood. If Norwood want to compete for the premiership, they should be winning this game, Brash and Ryan. But Carceres play their ground really well, and some could argue, and the fans down at Zerbies will argue, that they should be undefeated.
Yeah, well, some might say that, but the ladder doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't, because they've lost 2 of them.
No, and the fact that, look, if Sam Rowe wasn't playing, Norwood would probably have won this game.
It's a massive inclusion.
Yeah, because he's really their go-to spearhead at the moment. But I just feel that Norwood's back line is one of their key pillars. And
Norwood have got good contested.
Yeah,
Tom Maloney and Blake Pearson are dominating the clearances. So I think they'll be fine on the small ground. So Norwood for you, Bash?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Norwood as well.
Norwood Park and Roeville. I honestly, again, VFL availability will dictate this one. It's a bit of a local rivalry down there in the southeast of the league. But the Bulls are in good form. Cole Martin's back. I think they're on a roll here. I'm going to go the Bulls.
Yeah, I have to. And the thing is, Roeville, because of they've got, out of all the sides in Premier, their side is more dependent on their
It's very young, so they're experienced players. Yeah. They're going to fluctuate. Some games that they might win by 10 goals, but other games they might lose by 10 goals.
But today, down at the Bull Ring,
you reckon it's the Bulls?
Yeah, not the Bulls. Yeah. Bulls
and
today.
Just the way with their playing as well. I think it's hard to go past them today.
Yeah, so Bulls, and then this one's probably the game of the round on paper. Baldwin and South Croydon out there at Cherry Road, or Baldwin Vizzy Park as it's called. It's a very, very hard one. I'm leaning towards South Croydon, just 3-1, and we've seen them and they've been very impressive. But Baldwin are the kind of side, they've got some very, very good names on paper. They play their ground pretty well despite losing to Berwick there. And Jordan Lyle's kicked 11 goals, but he's been very, very inaccurate. So he's due to burst on the scene. He kicked 3-5 last week, so he's a big haul's around the corner. But I think South Croydon today.
King and Donnell out for South Croydon this afternoon. Just tips a favour. It's just slightly to Baldwin for mine at Vizzy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like the key forwards in Haley and Lyle, as you said. If they can catch them out in a 1-on-1 inside the forward 50, I think they're a good chance. But it's hard to go past South Croydon. And I think I think they're still my tip for the flag. So I'm going to stick with them today.
Absolutely. So it's an interesting round there. We'll do a few Division 1 talking points before we go to our first break. Obviously, the game today that will be, 2 to 5. It'll be Mooroolbark and Croydon here. Not quite a top of the table clash, but all equal first, all just percentage between the top 4 sides of Mooroolbark, East Ringwood, Park Orchards and Croydon. Now, I assume we're all saying they're locks for finals?
I think the two sides this afternoon that are
Check,
playing
1,
are all
2.
up for finals.
And,
Yes.
and what about Park Orchards
Check
and East
1,
Ringwood?
2.
East
Check
Ringwood have
1,
beat both of
2.
them.
1, 2.
Well, 5 going. Is it a 5 or a 4?
It's a 5.
Well, I think the 5. You got Park Orchards.
I think
are in
those
there.
4.
I've got-
I think those 4 are locks, and basically the last spot is out of Mitcham, Montana South, and Montrose. I think
Well, I'm thinking Mitcham for mine if they can get their
get their
best.
players back.
Yeah. For me, the talking point for me this afternoon is Montrose. They've got to get back on.
Well,
the,
my talking point. For 5th, I actually think Montana South, because they've got the talented list and they seem to have gelled. 2 weeks in a row, they've pumped a big score on the board.
Yeah.
They're playing better footy. Mitcham, I think the injuries are going to hurt them in the long run. And I think Montrose aren't as good as we expected.
No, definitely not. That's why I think it's a big day for the Montrose Football Club because they lose today. They fall behind, but if they win, they put themselves back in the mix.
Well, they've got Upper Gully, so they should get the victory on paper. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's a big day for them, Ryan, because Upper Gully have improved every week, and this is the no one goes through the season without getting a win.
No.
It rarely happens, and there's always a game where they bob up. And Montrose, I think, are right for the picking in terms of there's a bit of pressure on them having lost. Their last win was against Lilydale by 2 goals. Against the young Lilydale side, they beat Bayswater, another young side in round 1, and outside of that, they're flattered to deceive.
Oh, I think this is a huge opportunity for up to pull off an upset win against a side that's probably, I would say, struggling. I mean, they seem start games out well, but they have not been able to run out a game full 4 quarters. And if Upper can just stay in it, if they're within a couple of goals at half time, I would think that they have plenty of chance to win that.
I think it comes down to the top 4 that are 4 and 1.
They're locks.
Right, they're locks, and I think mentally those 4 sides have a healthier mindset than what Montrose do.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's hard because Montrose came off they've been the last 4 or 5 years they've been a lower ranked team, so it's hard to change that mindset despite coming down a division, isn't it? Because winning's a habit.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the thing when you're trying to get your culture back. One of the best things, Ryan, is to win.
Yeah.
And if you're not winning, but you're getting close, it's like someone said when Doncaster East lost their first game to Blackburn by point, and the supporters were clapping Doncaster East off the ground, and the coach Buxy turned around and said, "Don't be clapping us off the ground because for a valiant effort."
They expect to win.
There's no place unfortunately, even in this local level, there is no place for coming second every Saturday. It just doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And then I guess the only one. So I think Montana South. You think Mitcham, Brash, Ryan. Who are you saying for that 5th spot?
Oh, I think it's between Mitcham and Montana South, but I think we'll get a better read on Montana South today when they play a really good side because they've hit a bit of form, but they haven't played
I think that'll be a
top
high-scoring game because Montana South have kicked 100 plus in the last 2 weeks, and Park Orchards are freewheeling. Brash, if they could kick straight, they'd be putting up some very, very, very big scores.
I noticed Dennis Armfield's put himself on the bench this afternoon.
I think they play funny buggers with those.
Well, they do, and I think that the thing is, look, Dennis Armfield's a bit like Robin Nahas. Some of these ex-AFL guys, when they come back, they play off the half-back line because they actually want to see
the ground
and see how their forward line is actually functioning, so that when they come into the breaks, they've got something to actually talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Before we go to our break, let's run through the Division 1 games and get quick tips.
Yep.
Bayswater Lilydale, it's an early relegation battle. Personally, Upper Gully seem like they're destined to drop, although, like we said, that could change. Lilydale, both sides have got 1 win
I think
against
Bayswater.
Upper Gully. It's a big game. Bayswater.
I'm going Bayswater at home.
Yeah.
I'm also going Bayswater, but I think it'll be a good game out there at Bayswater over. Mooroolbark and Croydon today. We'll get into that later. Montrose, Upper Gully. I think we're all saying Montrose, but we wouldn't be surprised.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be that. Could be the upset.
Montana South, Park Orchards. I'm going to tip Wanturna South, actually, just for a bit of fun. I think playing at home, Park Orchards, I think they're very good going one way. I'm not sure about going the other way.
I'll go the Sharks. I'm still pretty bullish on them.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Sharks as well.
And then Mitcham, East Ringwood. I think East Ringwood, I'm really bullish on them. I think they're going under the radar because they don't have those star players such as a Mullet, or in Croydon's case, all the recruits. And I think Mitcham, it's just the right time to get Mitcham.
It is, and, look, when you can't field your best side, if they're full fit Mitcham at home, I'd pick them, but they're injury riddled, and East Ringwood can take control of it today.
Yeah, it's been a tough 3 weeks fixture-wise for Mitcham. I'm going to have to go with East Ringwood again.
Absolutely, and we'll get into Mooroolbark Croydon later today. It's time for our first break here on EFNL Game Day, and on the other side of this break, we'll be talking about Division 2 and Division 3.
Only 19 shots from 53 inside 50.
Thanks for that, guys. You're clear. You got 4 minutes.
The seniors coach going to do? Jono surprised himself and everyone else. The spray he gave the boys at halftime worked. Well, he did finish it by saying he'd shout him a post-game feed and frothies at Eastland if they won. For all of life and footy's little moments, there's Eastland. Proud sponsors of the EFL. Eastland. Live real.
Sprained your ankle, bursting through the banner? Broke a finger, high-fiving the ruckman? Or did you run into the goal post again? For bumps, breaks or bleeds, be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department. The preferred provider of emergency care to the Eastern Football Netball League, you'll generally experience shorter wait times. You don't need private health, but there is an out-of-pocket fee. Be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department, 262 Mountain Highway, Wanturna.
At Yarra Valley Water, we know reducing your shower time, or for some people, show time, to 4 minutes can save you an average of $255 a year on water and energy bills. Save the performance for the stage. Shower shorter. Save water.
Do you feel good about your bank? Because there is a bank you can feel good about. They share their profits to fund big community projects, small community clubs, and vital emergency services. They've given $250 million to help Australian communities thrive. They have all the products and tech you expect from a big bank, with service you don't. It's Bendigo Bank. Feel good about who you bank with. Try Bendigo. Search bendigobank.com.au or search Bendigo Bank near me.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener. 9 News invites you to join our team nightly at 6 for Melbourne's #1 news. Tony Jones with the latest sport, including the footy, plus Lavinia Nixon's weather forecast. 9 News, proud supporter of the Eastern Football League.
You've all been to funerals of family members or friends, right? Do you start thinking about what you would want at your funeral? It's a bit like when you go to a wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
At what stage do you start planning?
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
At Eastland, we believe one day isn't enough to celebrate all that our beautiful mums do. That's why we're celebrating Happy Mother's Days, the festival of love she deserves. From dining to fashion, homewares or a pampering session, Eastland has all your favourite brands ready to spoil mum. And if you need inspiration, check out our online gift guides. Spend $250 and you'll go in the running to win a $50 Eastland gift card till May 8th. T's and C's apply. Find out more at eastland.com.au. Eastland, live real.
Okay, guys, back in 60 seconds.
Sprained your ankle, bursting through the banner? Broke a finger, high-fiving the ruckman? Or did you run into the goal post again? For bumps, breaks or bleeds, be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department. The preferred provider of emergency care to the Eastern Football Netball League, you'll generally experience shorter wait times. You don't need private health, but there is an out-of-pocket fee. Be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department, 262 Mountain Highway, Wanturna.
The senior coach has taken the team to Eastland for a post-game feed. If only they had this kind of teamwork on the field. They've just ordered starters to share, plus frothies for the whole table. And now Steve-O's chucked a prawn to Macca. He's circled back. Yes! Straight into his pie hole. You beauty! Good form, boys.
10 seconds.
Moments, there's Eastland. Proud sponsors of the EFL. Eastland, live real.
Let's head back and go local for your footy.
Welcome back to Heights Reserves, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wet and windy afternoon, but that's what we expect playing at winter sport, which is Aussie rules. We're here for Mooroolbark v Croydon later on today, but at the moment we're going through all the divisions, all the other stuff that's happening in the Eastern Football Netball League here on the pre-game with Wayne Brasher, Ryan Long and myself, Matthew Fodia. We've done Premier Division and Division 1, so if you need to, you can scroll back and listen to that if you must. But at the moment we're going to talk about the Basin Bears, gents. They're 5-0. I'm on the bandwagon after, they've definitely surprised everyone, even though I did have them at the bottom, but they've definitely, I think everyone else didn't expect them to be 5-0. We saw them last week. They're the best defence in the comp by a mile. I think no other side. I think the next best is Ringwood, which is 70 points behind them in terms of points against. And they impressed us last week, Brash, with their speed and their willingness to help each other out.
They were, and I think that half-forward line is probably one of the... I haven't seen that for a long while. That half-forward line probably worked its proverbial life to make sure that ball did not come out of their inside 50 for most of the afternoon. That was what really impressed me. But I also was really impressed with the way... with their... Not only they do that, but the tackling pressure around the ground, Matty. I reckon they would have gone close to nearly laying 100 tackles last week.
Yeah, it was a lot of tackles, and I guess the thing that impressed me, Ryan, was obviously they're all young, and when you're young and everyone's working in one direction, it can be quite impressive. But they use their speed well. It's all good and well using your speed to kick goals, but they actually use their speed to run both ways really well, and they got back in so many numbers.
Yeah, and it really made Boronia, who were a really good side, look slow. It looked slow and old, and just on that with the forwards that you're talking about, Jackson Drake dislocated his finger early on in that game, and they still were able to cover it with no problems at all. So they do have plenty of talent up forward, as you said, in that half-forward line that were really strong.
Edwards is an impressive player as well.
He was very, very good, I thought, as well. Do you think, Ryan, maybe the only thing missing, obviously we didn't see Drake for much, so it'd be hard to tell, but I thought maybe the only thing, I spoke to Justin Stanton about it after the game, the only thing I can say at the moment is probably a lack of height in the forward line.
Yeah,
possibly. Just that sort of get out of jail kick come finals time when, the pressure is on Brash. That's when you need a key forward. That's the only thing. But like I said, they didn't have Ethan Power, who's been their ruckman and been in the best. I think, he was 100% maybe the games he's played, and Drake's kicked 9 goals in the first 4 games. So maybe... it would have been interesting to see them with both of those guys, but I thought maybe height was the only thing they were lacking.
No, you're right, Dow. I think if there is a little deficiency, that height could be, and the thing is they don't get any smaller come finals.
That's what I mean.
And you need those big men, so that.
On a day like today, it won't bother them because the football will probably be on the ground. But I'm thinking, they're obviously going to play finals, you would expect. I think that final series is notoriously at East Burwood. So, let's say late in the game, everyone's out in their feet, you need a quick goal. Sometimes the system goes out the window and you just want to bomb it in high and long.
That's probably
find a target.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, that when you've got a big man, and Blakes like Talevsky did that really well, you're able to open the forward line up and have him one out as the big key forward.
But think about the premiers of the years gone by. So Fair Park last year, Goff obviously stood up.
Yeah.
In Division 3, obviously South Belgrade was a bit of a write-off, but Brett Eddy was the star for Vermont in Division. Doncaster have always had those couple of focal points.
Yep.
Mitcham probably a bit of an exception to the rule, but even then Jake Parenti had a massive final series. And then if we think back again in 2018, the winners again were Vermont, Anger and Eddy. And then also Jake Best, and then you talk about Doncaster East again, so that same forward line. Division 2 was it Boronia in 2018?
Yeah.
So again, a couple of hulking forward presences down there, and then Division 4 was, I think it was Whitehorse in 2018, or was that 2017? Can't quite remember off the top of my dome piece there, but they've always had Padbury was there in 2017. I can't remember.
You've always got. When in premiership years, you've always got a key forward that kicks the majority of goals, but then you've got that backup forward that's always around that 30 to 40
goals. You want to spread, but I still think you need your main focal points.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I can pick out. But Drake was injured, so he might be there, and we might have just not seen him.
Yeah.
But they play Ringwood today, who are the best attacking side on paper, and they've got players everywhere. You've got Trent Farmer, Mitch Farmer, Burton, Jordanov, Callanan, Burton. I've already said Burton. Sorry, just that forward line is... It's so impressive. There's goal kickers everywhere. So I think that'll be the test for them, because against Boronia, they were able to get back in numbers, and then because Boronie's a little bit slower, as we've mentioned, they had time to get back, and then they could read the play. I think Ringwood have got enough speed to make it harder for the basin defenders to not only just get back, but get back and know where the ball's going, because you might sit in Trent Farmer's way, but then they kick it to Mitch Farmer, and then next time you go to Mitch, and then they'll go to Burton. I think Ringwood's versatility up forward might make it a bit harder for them to execute that sort of numbers game plan.
Yeah, they won't be allowed that luxury. Brett Rowe will be right onto that.
But look, I think that's, we're almost spewing that we went to Basin Barony last week, because that game would have been it would have been walking distance from my house too. But and for Brash, you would have rolled down the Maroondah Highway, man. It would have been perfect. But it would have been a really, really good game to see, because Ringwood are the benchmark despite losing. And they've got that younger demographic than Boronia, Ryan, which means they might be able to match the Basin's speed.
Yeah, I think you also look at like Hello last week, how dominant he was there. It's for Boronia, there wasn't really that sort of similar player that played well. No. And I think for Ringwood there will be plenty of people in the midfield.
Collier is one off the top of my head. There's a mountain of them, isn't there, in that midfield, Brash?
Yeah, there is. And look, that's you're talking about settled sides. Very settled side, the Ringwood side. You know what you're going to get with them, and but they're also capable of taking even the good sides and putting them to the sword.
In recent years they have towed up some pretty good opposition, although obviously not at the right time of year. Boronia 2 losses in a row, South Belgrave 3. That hasn't happened to South Belgrave in a long time, and Boronia in an equally long time, losing back-to-back games. But they are getting players back. The former captain, Lockie McKernan's back for the Hawks. So again, another of those inside midfielders, but more composure, can dominate around the contest. And
I believe another player they've brought back in is Braden Bowes as well.
There you go, another key player. And then for South Belgrave, Lee Odermatt and Michael Smith are back, adding to Tim Smith, who was back last week. So they'll get back to their best. But a couple of big games around the division. Obviously, we've spoken about the Ringwood and the Basin, but Boronia should get back on the winners list against Templestowe.
Yes.
Mulgrave and Heathmont's an interesting one out there. Escape to the Chateau, Brash. Escape to the country out there at Garnett Road.
Yep.
It's an interesting one, because Heathmont 3 in a row now. They're going well under Nick Rutley. Another young group that are starting to, understand the way they play. But Mulgrave's a hard place to go.
It is, and that's the funny thing with Heathmont. Just when you think you're ready to turn around and you're ready to tip them with absolute confidence.
They've beaten Ringwood and Boronia, so on paper they should win this by 10 goals.
They should, and I don't think a trip down to Escape to the country is going to be any.
I reckon they've packed their wellies.
Fine. They'll be fine. I'm sure, and Dave will have them all prepared.
He will. He would probably coach Mulgrave.
He's already down there.
What about you, Ron? You're tipping Boronia and Heathmont, I assume, those two games?
Yeah, I think Boronia gets home very comfortably with those ins, and Templestowe struggling. Heathmont, I am picking them, but Mulgrave have surprised me. The way they played against Knox last week, I actually was quite surprised. I didn't think they'd get up.
If it's going to be wet anywhere, it'll be wet out at Mulgrave.
Yeah.
And, and that ground does hold its water. I know it's been redone, but it's notorious for holding its water.
That is probably the most intriguing game out of the 4 games in Division 2.
Ringwood and Basin's obvious, but I agree with what Brash. Like, it's one of I'd keep a keen eye on it. It could be 10 goals to Heathmont, but it wouldn't surprise me if Mulgrave got up. The other one is Knox on South Belgrave. Not as intriguing, but South Belgrave have lost 3 in a row now, and they don't know how to lose, which is obviously a good thing. And Knox, every time you look at it, you go, they should be better than what they're putting out. And I just think one day it's going to click. And on a day like today, the conditions are a bit, without, lack of better words, they're poor. The conditions are poor, which brings the sides closer together. And out at Knox Gardens, if it's wet, it can often get chopped up.
Yeah, exactly. I still think, though, that, I think South Belgrave will definitely...
They need to get back.
They see this as a gilt-edged opportunity to get their season back on track here.
BWS tipped them to win the flag, so they'd want to win this one.
Yeah, I think Knox will be pretty happy with the conditions today, and especially if it rains. Having Tim Smith up forward, it's going to be hard to stop him. So if they, they conceded 100 points last week to Mulgrave. I worry about
Knox.
Yeah, I worry about them.
Absolutely. Yep. Anyway, let's move on down to Division 3. So. Look, at the moment, every division seems to have some juicy games. The big talking points for me, East Burwood. So they won their first 3 games, but they've got a big 3 weeks. Last week was the first one against Waverley Blues, then they've got Furniture Gully, then they've got Warrandyte. So we're going to know about East Burwood by the end of the next fortnight, where they're actually at, Brash. But Matt Spider-Lee was obviously out there watching his beloved Rams. And
what's his thoughts on him?
Well, the first quarter, he said he was embarrassed. They conceded 9 goals. But after the quarter time, they actually won the game by 5 goals. They went down by 4 goals, but were down by 7 goals at quarter time. So you could take the positive out of the fact that they probably had Waverley Blues measured for the rest of the game, and we had a couple other people out there said it was a great game to watch, end to end, and that's the way Waverley Blues are going to play. Obviously, they're going to back their attacking ability, but on the flip side, East Burwood, that's a slow start that Scotty Wind, he won't be taking that.
Watch how they start today, I reckon.
That's been their Achilles heel all season, East Burwood. They've started slow.
And they got away with it.
They got away with it, and because they didn't actually blow them off the park. They just grinded them over the course of the last 3 quarters to get the victory. Look, technically, the way they've got a very good squad. I like Middleton at centre half forward, big, tall, 6'7" guy. He can actually kick the ball massively. I've seen him kick the ball actually outside the back fence.
And East Burwood.
Yeah, down the far end.
Yeah, they've got it's going to be an interesting game between them and Ferntree Gully on top, and Ferntree Gully going pretty well.
Gully are going exceptionally well. I'm really happy for them. The Kieran Grey is having a sensational
year.
What's he got? 11 goals and in the best 4 times. Brash will bring up his little player performance sheet.
Kicked another 4 last week.
Exactly. Ryan, the other team I'm interested in looking at is Whitehorse, because we've actually been quite bullish on Whitehorse all year. Obviously, we love a few players down there, and we know a few. Duncan Jones, of course, came into the job at the last second. They're 1-4, but they've played the 4 top sides. They've played East Burwood, Ferntree Gully, Waverley Blues and Warrandyte. They lost to East Burwood by 3 points, the Gully by 5 goals, Waverley Blues by 4 goals and Warrandyte by 7 goals. So despite being 1-4, they've actually not been too bad.
You wouldn't have thought they were 8th on the ladder just by looking at that. And I think, we've talked about how reliant they are on Padbury, but they did have eight multiple goal kickers last week. So they are starting to find a few other options. And I think against Donvale, this is just the sort of game that they just have to win. And at home as well, yes.
So they've got Donvale, which means their next few games should be Donvale, Fair Park, Glen Waverley. So they should be able to get back to 4-4 before their bye, or after their bye, at the halfway point. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Pioneers go about it. So there's a couple of interesting games there. The fixtures today, Glen Waverley and the Waverley Blues in the Pinewood Cup. It's at Central Reserve, but again, I think that's a high-scoring game. There could be, Waverley Blues go one way, Brash, if you're looking at your stats, don't they? And Glen Waverley have got a couple of goal kickers, so you'd expect the Blues to win, but it could be 120 plays 80.
Yeah, Blues for mine. You've got to take them on trust.
Yeah, they can open up the game, the Blues, and with that attacking style play. So I think they're the better side at the moment.
They're the better side, but again, it's something that could be interesting watching for your neutral that likes goals. Fair Park and Warrandyte at Fair Park. I think at half time it'll be close, and Warrandyte will blow them out of the water, because that's been the trend, unfortunately, for Fair Park.
Yeah, Warrandyte for mine. They're just with buckets. Phillips down
there. Could have another big day out there. Small ground, the big buckets.
Yeah, could
Absolutely.
be. And I think, actually, believe it or not, it works really well for Luke Dunn, who comes back into the side today, because instead of him being the number 1 forward, he now goes to a forward pocket. And Luke Dunn is a 50-60 goal a year goal kicker, and he'll get the second best backman, but he's definitely a quality forward player for Warrandyte.
Yeah, I think Warrandyte comfortably, but I'm looking forward to Fair Park. I just want to see
they'll pitch a couple eventually.
And I think this is not out of the. I don't think they can win today, but I think they can.
Every game they play at home, I think they're a sniff, just because of the uniqueness of the ground, and you probably need to play extra on ballers, because you don't need a centre-half forward.
And the Gully for mine, mate, I'm really impressed. I love the way the Gully run their games out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't get a chance to put the tip in there, but
we haven't got to that game yet. I was building up to it, mate. It was a game of Whitehorse and Donvale. I think Whitehorse, but Donvale won last week. But I'm going to go with Whitehorse just on the fact that I think their fixture list probably gives them a hard rap.
Yeah, I'm going to go Donvale. I think they're ready to. Murphy's back in the side. They've started to get some of their players back. I think there might be a fleeting chance this afternoon.
It was a really good win against Scoresby last week, but I'm sticking with Whitehorse at the moment. I haven't got a good read on Donvale yet.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Donvale probably lacked scoring power last week. And then East Burwood and Ferntree Gully is probably the game of the round on paper. It's at East Burwood Reserve, Brash. But Ferntree Gully, as you said, they've got good running power. They've got Corey Preston's back in the side, the Footscray VFL listed player. I think he played in a talent game last week on on the. I don't know if it was on the MCG, but it was definitely an AFL recruiters game, and he's been in the best both times. He plays out of the midfield. I think he's kicked 8 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, he is.
So he's an absolute star. I think you've got to go the gully, but it's an interesting test for the Rams.
It is. And Kieran Grey, he's played all 5 games, 13 goals, 4 goals in most games, times in the best 4 times out of 5 games. Ripping on baller. He's having a great season so far. Expect him to keep going on. He'd be in front in there.
And he'd be close to the medal. 2.6 goals a game from the midfield. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Ryan, who are you going there?
I'm sticking with Fentry Gully, but I'm really looking forward to this one. I wouldn't be surprised East Burwood at home, but I think it's hard to go past the Gully at the moment.
I'll tell you what, the one good thing, Brash, is the Rams, no matter what division they're in, they're up and about finally once again, which is good to see. We're going to go to our second break on EFNL pre-game, and on the other side of this, we'll talk a little bit about Division 4, and then we'll preview the big clash between the Mooroolbark Mustangs and the Croydon Blues.
Only 19 shots from 53 inside.
Sorry about that delay there, guys. Just having some technical problems there. We're 4 minutes for this break, though.
Thanks, mate.
Prized himself and everyone else. The spray he gave the boys at halftime worked. Well, he did finish it by saying he'd shout him a post-game feed and frothies at Eastland if they won. For all of life and footy's little moments, there's Eastland. Proud sponsors of the EFL. Eastland. Live real.
Sprained your ankle, bursting through the banner? Broke a finger, high-fiving the ruckman? Or did you run into the goal post again? For bumps, breaks or bleeds, be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department. The preferred provider of emergency care to the Eastern Football Netball League, you'll generally experience shorter wait times. You don't need private health, but there is an out-of-pocket fee. Be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department, 262 Mountain Highway, Wanturna.
At Yarra Valley Water, we know reducing your shower time, or for some people, show time, to 4 minutes can save you an average of $255 a year on water and energy bills. Save the performance for the stage. Shower shorter. Save water.
Do you feel good about your bank? Because there is a bank you can feel good about. They share their profits to fund big community projects, small community clubs, and vital emergency services. They've given $250 million to help Australian communities thrive. They have all the products and tech you expect from a big bank, with service you don't. It's Bendigo Bank. Feel good about who you bank with. Try Bendigo. Search bendigobank.com.au or search Bendigo Bank near me.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener. 9 News invites you to join our team nightly at 6 for Melbourne's #1 news. Tony Jones with the latest sport, including the footy, plus Lavinia Nixon's weather forecast. 9 News, proud supporter of the Eastern Football League.
You've all been to funerals of family members or friends, right? Do you start thinking about what you would want at your funeral? It's a bit like when you go to a wedding. At what stage do you start planning?
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
At Eastland, we believe one day isn't enough to celebrate all that our beautiful mums do. That's why we're celebrating Happy Mother's Days, the festival of love she deserves. From dining to fashion, homewares or a pampering session, Eastland has all your favourite brands ready to spoil mum. And if you need inspiration, check out our online gift guides. Spend $250 and you'll go in the running to win a $50 Eastland gift card till May 8th. T's and C's apply. Find out more at eastland.com.au. Eastland, live real.
60 seconds, guys.
Sprained your ankle, bursting through the banner? Broke a finger, high-fiving the ruckman? Or did you run into the goal post again? For bumps, breaks or bleeds, be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department. The preferred provider of emergency care to the Eastern Football Netball League, you'll generally experience shorter wait times. You don't need private health, but there is an out-of-pocket fee. Be seen sooner, close to home at Knox Private 24/7 Emergency Department, 262 Mountain Highway, Wanturna.
The senior coach has taken the team to Eastland for a post-game feed. If only they had this kind of teamwork on the field. They've just ordered starters to share, plus frothies for the whole table. And now Steve-O's chucked a prawn to Macca. He circled back. He circled back. Yes! Straight into his pie hole.
10 seconds.
Boys. For all of life and footy's little moments, Eastland, proud sponsors of the EFL. Eastland, live real.
Let's head back and go local for your footy.
And you're on.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's EFNL game day, and we're here previewing Mooroolbark v Croydon from the Heights Reserve. The rain has stayed away so far. There's been little showers and little bits of cold air gusting through, but so far so good, and we're expecting a massive day out here as 2 4-1 sides in Division 1 go head-to-head in maybe a grand final preview, but we could be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit there. Matthew